Hey, what's up? Ian here, and today I would like to talk about this KZ Krila. It is a 1DD plus 1BA IEM, and it comes with tuning switches, and the retail price for this is just 16 US dollars. I mean, KZ has been known in the market for coming out with budget IEMs, and most of the time they sound pretty good, and this one is no exception. I mean, 16 bucks, and it comes with one dynamic driver and one balance armature and tuning switches, which gives you 16 different configurations. And overall package is 16 bucks. Okay, so in this video I'm just going to focus on the sound. I'm not going to go through the accessories and fit and comfort and everything else. I think I've been through too many KZ IEMs until I think it becomes quite repetitive in terms of the accessories. So if you guys have not watched any of my KZ videos, then you won't know about this, but I'm sure you have been through one of my KZ reviews lah. Okay, so let's not waste any time. Let's jump straight into the sound. But before that, let's talk about the specifications, which is at the back of this box. The frequency range is 20 to 40,000 Hertz. Impedance is a variance of 28 to 36, depends on the position of the switches. And then you have sensitivity of 106. As for the drivers, there are two drivers in here. One is the Zoom dynamic driver. Let me just zoom in and show you guys. There you go. Right, so you can see the driver somewhere here. Right, this is a 10 mil driver, and then you have the balance armature right at the nozzle here. Okay, let me just see if I can bring it nearer. Yeah, so that's the balance armature. Okay, so that's the specifications for this, and of course the switches lah. So basically the switches, I'll talk about the switches later. Okay, now let's talk about drivability for this, and these are really easy to drive. I've used it with my iPad, iPhone, my dongles, my DAPs, anything can push this. I've listened to it. The comfortable listening level for me is about 30% volume. 40% is considered quite loud already for me, so yeah, very easy to drive IEM. Now in terms of the gear matching, because of the tuning switches, right, these are quite versatile. It can match with quite a lot of source, but I would still recommend a warmer source for this lah. Okay, this is the Sony Walkman. They are warm sounding. Okay, so warm source would be good. Okay, or even the dongles, that is, like for example this Truth Ear Shield, it sounds warm. Okay, yeah, so warmer source, but you still can run it with more neutral source, right, like the Vio M15s or the Shangling M0 Pro or the Quest style dongle, right, the M15 dongle. They sound neutral on this, but it's quite a good match also lah. Depends on the tuning switch. Okay, now in terms of tone and timbre, depends on the switch as well. So if you were to not turn on anything, right, all the switches are being pushed down, then you get a more neutral tone, right, a more natural tone, okay, with a linear bass. But if you have all the switches being pushed up, then you get a warmer and more heavier note weight tone, and it sounds more textured. So it depends on the switches where they are. Okay, now in terms of the technicalities of this, basically 16 bucks is a good performer. Okay, it's definitely way above its price points in terms of the performance. Okay, so the soundstage on this is wide, but it's not like a concert hall kind of wide. It's still maybe a living room kind of size, all right, and you can have, you know, quite a spacious area. Depends on the track, also depends on the tuning also. But soundstage is, yeah, it's quite an average soundstage. Now in terms of imaging and sound separation, imaging is actually pretty good. All right, I can identify the positions of the instruments in an orchestra, and for sound separation is very good as well. I can identify where the sound is coming from, and where the background singer is and all that. So very good sound separation and layers. Now in terms of detailed retrieval, I would say it depends on the tuning. So if all your switches are being pushed down, then you get more detail. less bass, of course, more detail. But if the switches are being pushed up, then you lose a bit of the nuances of the details on this IEM. In terms of resolution, I would say this is actually a pretty resolving IEM. It's not the most resolute, of course, but it's it's for this price, like 16 bucks. It's a very resolving IEM. Alright, so that's for the technicalities. Now let's talk about the tuning of this. Let me just show you the graph. Alright, so this is the graph of the Krila. Now let me just talk about the tuning switches before I talk about the graph. Okay, so for that, let me bring out the KZ website here. So there are 4 main tuning, but actually there are 16 different permutations. Mainly they are talking about the 4 switches being pushed up or down, or turned on or off. Okay, so basically, right, let me just zoom in. So they gave this tuning pin here. Alright, so if the switch, there are 4 switches here, if the switch are being pushed down, it means that it's off. Okay, when you push it up, it's on. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So let me zoom out again. Okay, so there are 4 different settings. The first setting is when the first switch is being pushed on or turned on. You get an increase of the sub bass by 1 dB, or the low frequencies are basically what they say. And then for 1 and 2 being turned on, you get 2 dB increase. And 1, 2, 3 being turned on, you get an increase of 3 dB. And if all the 4 switches are being turned on, then the highs are being reduced by 1.5 dB. Okay, so that's for the tuning switches. So I've measured all the 16 permutations, as you can see here. Okay, I'm not going to go through every single one. I'm just going to go through the extreme. That means all is on, which is up, okay, which means U, okay, and all is off, which means all down. Okay, so basically when all the switches are being pushed down, you get a very linear bass, uncolored. I wouldn't say uncolored, but not much of a texture lah. Alright, so very linear bass, but extension of the bass is really good, better than some of the few $100 IEMs that I've tried. Later I'll compare with one other IEM. And if you pushed all the switches up, you get more sub bass, and this will increase that warmth and the funness of the IEM. But the extension remains. Okay, so very good extension. I must really comment on this. It's very good extension for the sub bass. As for mid bass, is impactful. It's got good punch, but it bleeds into the mids. Okay, but in terms of texture, again, it depends on the switches, and yeah, it gets less texture if all the switches are being pushed down. Okay, but yeah, it is a very fast bass, mid bass. Okay, now in terms of the mids, depends on the switches again. If the switches are being pushed down, I get more clarity, more forwardness of my pianos and violins and the flutes and trumpets. And they got more details being retrieved, and also it affects the tone and the timbre. Also, the note weight of my instruments, they sound a little bit leaner when the switches are being pushed down. Yeah, so again, very many different combinations, again, depending on the switch, and depending on your listening preference as well. But for me, when I have all these switches being pushed down, they sound quite forward, yeah, to me. Okay, and the clarity is there regardless. Now in terms of female vocals and male vocals, they both sound pretty good. Alright, I prefer all the switches being pushed down, so I get a bit more clarity, a bit more presence, a bit more sparkle from the female vocals that I listen to. For male vocals, I will push everything up, then I'll get a bit more authority, a bit more texture, a bit more oomph and presence for the male vocals. So again, very versatile I am. Now in terms of the treble, right? Treble, the energy is there, the gain is there, the peanut gain is there, pretty good bite, but it's not a very present bite. Okay, it's textured at the same time. Is exciting. Yeah, I would say exciting enough in terms of treble. The brightness is there. It's not the brightest, but again, yeah, it's pretty safe treble, I would say. Now, it's quite dark at times, depends on what track I'm listening to, but yeah, if you look at the curve here, it does dip down a little bit for the presence, and it's also below the Harman target curve. So it's, yeah, it's not the brightest light as I mentioned, but it's again a very safe treble. And I noticed that, you know, KZ through time and through the many models that they keep coming out with, they are improving their tuning, and this is, they're getting there they're getting there. A very good treble, right? Now this peak here is actually my coupler's peak, all right, my coupler's artifact. Now it's not sibilant, all right, this IM is not sibilant, and it's not harsh as well, it's not shouty as well. So yeah, it's a very safe treble. The airiness is a pretty airy treble, right? It lingers quite a bit before it rolls off. My cymbal strikes hi-hats got good so-called extension to it. Yeah, it doesn't sound natural, but it sounds good lah. All right, so yeah, that's for the overall tuning of this Krila, and I would say this is a jack of all trade IM, and it's suitable for a lot of genre of music, and it depends, yeah, what you like. Just change the switches and you get that tuning, and you enjoy your music. But mostly is more of a warmer side, more, I wouldn't say fun, more of a warmer and textured music. All right, classical, you still can listen to classical. In the orchestra, you can still listen to it. It's just that it's got a bit more warmth to the orchestra that you listen to. Okay, so yeah, it's suitable to a lot of genre of music, and the overall rating for this, I would give this Krila a 3.5 star rating. Okay, for the fact that this can adapt to a lot of firstly a lot of source, and adapt to a lot of genre of music depending on the switches, and the best part is only at the price of $16 US. It's a very affordable earphone, and that's the reason why I'm giving it 3.5 stars. Alright, so that's my overall review and impression of this Krila. Now let's compare this with another IM, and the IM that I'm comparing with is the let me just push this one up one bit. Alright, so this is the KeyBoom Evoke. Now the KeyBoom Evoke is a 1DD plus 1BA, right, similar to the Krila, and the price for the KeyBoom Evoke is $223. The Krila is $16 US. It's almost $200 more. Okay, now in terms of performance, technical performance, these two are very comparable. Okay, in fact, I would say the overall performance is, I mean, okay, it's not by a lot, okay. I'm saying performance, this is a little bit better. Okay, a little bit better than the Evoke. Okay, so soundstage wise, yeah, they sound pretty good. In terms of detail retrieval, this is a chameleon. This can actually change quite a bit, depends on the tuning. This one doesn't come with any tuning switches at all. Okay, and then the overall resolution, I would say this one has got a little bit less distortion, when it comes to a little bit less noise also. When it comes to these two, the Evoke is a little bit on the rougher side, and also it sounds warm lah. Okay, it's a warm, it's fun, and more of a balanced type of tuning. Let me just bring out the graph, show you guys the difference. Okay, so you are looking at two lines here. The red line is the Krila, the purple line is the Evoke. Okay, and look at this, that's almost identical in terms of tuning, and this is where the Krila, all the switches are being pushed up. Okay, and this, yeah, they sound almost similar in terms of tuning, but I would say overall the performance of the rumble of the Krila, this is what I hear. Okay, it's got a better extension, it's got a more affirmative type of rumble, and it sounds better lah in terms of the rumble. Okay, that's for the rumble. Now in terms of treble, I would say the Evoke is a little bit brighter, and Krila, it sounds more of a darker type of treble, but overall they sound almost similar. And the fact is, there's a $200 price difference. Okay, so that's what I think KZ is driving at, in terms of the price to performance. Okay, doesn't mean it's expensive. It will sound good. Okay, it sounds good right? It sounds good. It's just the position of the price, right? The Evoke sounds good, right? Don't get me wrong. The Krila sounds good also, but only at the price of $16, right? So that's the difference. Okay, so that's my comparison with the Keyboom Evoke, and that also concludes my overall review of this Krila. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video and also learned something from this video, and if you did, please give this video a thumbs up, and also please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. So that's it for now. I hope you guys have a great day ahead, and I'll see you again in my next video. Cheers.